Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side, food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. I really do hope that we're getting our heads together. Welcome, by the way. One of the things I just need to get popped into an oven, first of all, at 450 degrees. I'm sorry if you've got your pencil, if you're getting it ready for later on. 450 degrees Fahrenheit for just 10 minutes. I needed to do that first. Come on through. What I really want to do here is to show you a technique today, which is as pastry. And I'm, as you can probably tell by my accent, I was raised at the other side of the pond, from whichever side you're at the moment. Of course, it would depend. I'm British. I'm Scottish, actually. My father's Scottish, my mother's English, and inadvertently I was born in London from my Scottish side of my family. Now, you can have a pie in Britain, and a real pie, of course, has a layer of fatty crust in the dish, first of all, and then, of course, the top crust on the top there. Now, the big thing is, when you start looking at the amount of fat and flour just combined together, and you want to try and get something which is low in risk and high in flavor, gosh, that's difficult. It really is. So what I've tried to do with this particular one is to start eliminating some of the quantity for a start. And so we simply cut out the bottom part. And then, of course, my country folk will say, but that's not a pie. And I understand that. But I want you to bear with me just at the moment and then investigate the numbers and feel with me this idea about trying to minimize some of the risk and maximize the flavors. It's with wheat germ in it, has a marvelous toasty kind of experience. And so let's rush off and join the crust at the moment. I'll show you how the rest gets together. Come along. Good. If great big clouds of smoke come out of the oven, ring the station. It's a bit late by then. Okay. First things first. A cup and a half of flour. And this is an all-purpose flour. And this is a most important way to begin. Into that, a quarter of a cup of wheat germ. Now, in this particular case, we use wheat germ which is toasted. But you can use raw wheat germ, but here's a problem with it. Although it is nutritionally excellent, it does have a high oil content. And the higher the oil content comes, the more likely you are for it to go rancid. And rancid oils and fats are not such a good idea nowadays when we're starting to learn something about cancer. So please, if you're going to get wheat germ, get it at the last conceivable moment, or keep it in the deep freeze, or buy it toasted and then keep it in the fridge. All right. And use it fairly soon. Right, now, the wheat germ is now into the flour. And here, then, I've got 6 tablespoons full of butter. Not butter. I thought you just fell off the sofa for a moment. No, this is a polyunsaturated margarine, and I put it in the refrigerator in the deep freeze, so it would get really cold before cutting it. And if you cut it in very thin slices like this, and then cut it again in little tiny pieces like that, and put it immediately into iced water, you'll have something that looks like so. And this is important because the reason for this is that this should be as solid a fat as possible when you rain it down into the flour. Because actually, the making of a piece of pastry which has flakes and tenderness in it, tender and flaky, Now, if you just think about that, that's not exactly the description of a desirable personality, but it certainly is a desirable pastry. So, oh, I didn't need a piece of ice in there. That might have been the start of an incredible new recipe. All right, so just place it down. I call this 5-minute puff pastry, so we'll see whether we can do it in 5 minutes. Then, this is finger time. Just toss it around so that every piece is covered in flour. Now, I don't know whether you've ever heard that a person who is sort of warm-blooded can't make pastry. They say that. That's because they've got sweaty hands. I'm not sure. Maybe from your experience, you know, warm-blooded people always have sweaty hands. I mean, my wife Trina's warm-blooded, but she doesn't have sweaty hands. But if you do, you're apparently not supposed to make pastry. That's ridiculous. Look, just simply take your fingers there and just press each one of those pieces of fat out until it's like one of those stones you'd find on a beach that you say, ooh, look, let me skip that one, you know, because we're going a long way. So you want to flatten it out so that it once was nice and round and pieced, and now you're flattening it out. You see, the point is that the more you handle an all-purpose flour, then it starts to build a gluten chain in it. And the more gluten you get, the tougher something becomes. So, and especially when you add water to it. So, I want to handle it minimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and possibly 6. We'll see. It depends upon the humidity in the air and just to what extent the flour has reacted to that. Everything, I mean, everything changes. And so be ready just with a little extra if you have to have it. Pinch it together. Don't overwork it. I will need that extra bit. And just slosh it in. Really ice cold. Very important. All right, now, about this time, you can start to compress it together. It should be able to come together with the fingertips, and this is the... Whenever I do this on camera, I think, oh, golly, is it going to work? And, of course, hope rises constantly in the human breast. Ah, good. Now, just keep on just pressing it down, remembering if you overdo it, you're going to be in trouble. There we go. All right, little bits everywhere. Make sure it's all together. Now, just compress it together in your hands and just move it into a ball shape. The moment that it gets wet, just please don't overdo the wetness of it. It may look a little dry, that's fine. Then by all means do it. But please, please don't overdo the wetness. Now, when you start rolling it out, the first rollout will be nice and easy. You don't roll it too far. You just get it out to a shape, say about that. And then you fold it in halfway, and then over the top halfway, and then turn it like so. Now you're starting to get it into a shape that you can start to work with. A little bit more of the flour. That's why if you got, and you know, I can't stress this more, too much. Just keep it, because I've got so little fat in here, just 3 ounces of fat, you know, the 6 tablespoons full of fat. It's incredibly low in fat, so you've got to treat it so carefully. Over and over, and then you could mark it twice, you know, for the fact that you've actually rolled it. Then you could put it in the fridge and let it relax for a little bit. Bring it out once again, and then roll it out for the last time, just the state that you want it in. Now, if you've got a rolling pin, the thing to do is to get a rolling pin that has got handles on it. I feel that that is probably the better kind of rolling pin, so that you've got something to hang on to as you're simply going through. This is... Come on out! I don't want to keep on handling you. The more I handle you, the tougher you're going to get. That's right, buddy. Oh, well. Do you ever talk to the things that you do in the kitchen? There we go. All right. So you just roll it out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. Now you see the kind of dappled look that it has a wonderful appearance. Put a lid on the top and then simply inscribe a circle around there, making sure you get your fingers out of the way. Blood makes terrible pastry. And bring it out. Then mark it. And what I do, I mark this across there like so, into the divisions that I need for the pastry itself, all right? For, however many portions I'm going to use. And then roll it around a rolling pin, and then straight out onto a waxed or parchment paper like so. And then take a little bit of milk and just brush it on the top. 2% milk is probably better than skim milk in this case. So little, it doesn't make any difference. All right, put that into the oven. Remember, like we did with the 450-degree Fahrenheit one? And lo and behold, bingo! There's the one. Oh, the smell. When you bring it out of the oven, this is the reward of rewards when you whip it out of the oven here. And it comes out and it looks like a sort of shallow pizza. But the smell is just gorgeous. Now, here's the point where my country folk, hello, are going to say, Graham, that is not a pie. And so I keep on making the point there about that because I know it isn't. So taking a good steak and kidney or whatever kind of pie filling you want to do, take that, place it out, and then simply break off. Boy, that's hot. You see that's why I actually did it like so that you just break it off and press it down into the mix like this. And it soaks up a little bit underneath so that the juices actually get underneath, but I don't have that bottom crust to go absolutely white and soggy in the bottom. All right. Well, here, let me show you what the actual difference is when you look at a pastry crust actually top and bottom. So there it is. And I thought I'd compare this with a steak and kidney pie, and this is what I was trying to do, remember, at the top, was just to see whether I could get a crust on the top instead of the bottom as well, and see that difference that would make. So I thought it would probably be a good idea not to actually write the numbers down for anything else except the pastry involvement in the same shaped pie. So 348 calories for a classic crust on a steak and kidney pie. We get that down to 176, so it starts to bring the calories into line. Then 21 grams of fat. That's a third of the amount of fat that you probably would need in a whole day if you were my size. So we brought that down to 9, so that makes it more manageable. Saturated fat was 13 because of butter actually makes a wonderful crust, and so does lard. We got that down to just 2, which is reducing the risk factor. And so that gives me a crust at 47% of calories from fat. Remember, that's the crust only, and then you have to deal with the filling. That's where it can come down to 30% or less. And then cholesterol, 123, 0. I love it when it gets to 0. And then sodium is just 5 milligrams. I mean, that's really down. And then dietary fiber knocks out about the same with the dietary fiber here. And then clean your hands before you start to eat. I don't have a moment point. Oh, now look, see how it breaks? That means that it's tender. And it soaked up the meat juices from underneath. The toasted wheat germ is an extraordinary flavor. I do want you to try that. It's tender, light, delicious, flaky, and under half of the risk of the other one. Okay? Very good. Okay. Springboard. Now, must springboard, always springboard. I'm going to springboard this time by inventing a completely new dish. It's really a layer of rice and corn and fresh salmon in a bowl, in a clay bowl. And you don't want to miss this one. Come on, I'll show you how it's done. Right, now this one is totally unique. I don't know any other dish anywhere like it in the whole world. So here we go. Take 1 cup of sweet corn, which is the frozen sweet corn, and you've actually defrosted it, and take 1 cup of a Chardonnay, de-alkalized Chardonnay, and just whack it in there, bring it to the boil, and it's just almost at the boil there now. And then ready one of these one of these blenders. So make sure that it's nice and tight at the bottom. I've had more fun than you can imagine with leaky bottoms, if you understand. Okay, so we just simply pour that in there. I prefer glass. And then on with the top and put it on here. Good. All right, so it's on and ready, and I dial that tap to about 6 and then run it. And always take your hand off the top. All right, so it's just bouncing up and down at the present moment. It doesn't take long, just a few moments. And then get one of these, stainless steel mesh sieves. The sort of thing that has been really strung together properly is going to last a lifetime. That's what these do. They're very strong indeed. Get the pan ready to receive it. After it's had about this 30 seconds, then you can just stop it down and place this, then pour this into, the smell of it. When those kernels break open and they pop in the blender, you see, when they break, and they mix with the wine, and there's something absolutely extraordinary that goes on between these two as they get together, the wine and the corn. This is for the sauce, by the way, that goes with it. Just great. Just mash it through and just get as much through as possible. You're just left behind with some fibrous material, which is a bit of a shame because we could have used it, but it'll ruin the sauce. Okay, just place that in there. And now, keep it on the heat. And what we're going to do is to thicken that with a little cornstarch, because you see later on, I want to actually, and I need to have some water from someplace. Oh no, I'm going to add some wine to that, not water. I like running backs and forwards over there just to see whether Terry, who's right behind this camera here, you don't know him personally, but just wag your camera to say you're there, Terry. That's all right. That's him. That's him. You see, I just wanted to be sure. I can't really see him, so I mean, all I can see is you. Okay, so here I just take 2 teaspoonfuls of the cornstarch. Never arrowroot, because if you do that, it turns it slimy. Because there's something about arrowroot and yogurt which doesn't work well. So pull it away from the fire with this cornstarch, having melted that down, and just put it back on the heat again. It must boil for about 30 seconds to get some of that ugly starch feeling, out of that. Okay, so that's doing well, and I just want to bring that to the boil, make sure that comes up. Good. All right, here's the bowl. Now, it's a bowl which measures about 4 inches across. It's got a glaze in the center, and it's just ordinary clay on the outside. And you've probably seen them around. Here, you take just a little bit of polyunsaturated margarine, in this case, just some of the bit left over from making the pastry. And then you make a pastry sheet like the one that we made before. Roll it out about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then just drop it down into the center, like so. Now, this will take a little bit of getting to know how to do, but you've got to make a fold in it, several folds. And so here we go. Press it down loosely into the bottom. There we go, like so. And I found that about 3 folds usually does it. 1 fold there. Here's a second fold. Let's just fold it over there. And here's a 3rd fold around this side. It's kind of, I learned this from a plastic surgeon. Terrible. All right, press it in. Now, just quickly pinch it together like so. And the more tightly you pinch it, you should be able to then tear it back down and then heal it by simply placing your finger on there. Do you see how that worked? So you just pinch it tightly, and this has got fairly dry standing out in the lights, but pinch it tightly, pull that back like that, and heal it. And the last fold here, major fold. Oh, look, this is wonderful now. Can you get off that for a moment and get it here? See now, see that's thick like custard. Now I just want to pour that into a bowl there, and I'm pinching at the same time, so that it gets nice and cold. Now, I wouldn't normally ask you to do that at all. You wouldn't have to do that at home. Just keep it in the saucepan and just let it go cold whilst you're doing the rest of this. But I have to do that. All right, so just pinch that again and from the outside there and heel it. All right, so I don't want large quantities of extraneous pastry all over the place. I just wanted that. And now I just simply run a knife blade around the outside. You see, if you've got large hunks of pastry in the middle, then you get unevenness in the pastry supplied when you're actually eating it, and it doesn't look too good. Now, this can be rolled out. I've actually rolled out some pastry here so as to approximate what it looks like. Press this down so that any other folds and piece of pastry is actually gone. Good. Now, in this bowl here, a cup of cooked long grain rice, half a cup of the same raw, uncooked but defrosted sweet corn, and half a teaspoonful of fresh snipped dill, or dill weed if you like, if you can't get the fresh snip. Dill weed dried is fine. Just stir that together and put just a little drop of pepper in there as well, freshly ground black pepper. Good. Now, that's well seasoned, and what you do with this is you start this thing off by tossing in half of that rice and then pressing it down thoroughly. I mean, really get it down. Push it down hard. It's very important to tamp it right down. Then you can either get a 7.5-ounce tin of salmon, or you've got this piece of salmon here, which is a fresh, lovely piece, which I think I would prefer. And about 6 ounces there of fresh salmon. Just put a layer of it down. Some more, just a little bit of the dill on the top. And 2 teaspoonfuls of capers on the top of that. I know I'm going fast, but believe me, it's all in the book. And then over the top of that, some of the rest, well, not some of it, all of the rest of that mix, and tamp it down just like I did before. And then just take a small brush and brush it with a little milk along the outside. Take this piece on the top, whack it on the top surface, and press it down hard so that it really makes a good seal. And then cut that one off. This kind of short back and sides routine. Just turn the bowl and just cut with a knife at the same time. Isn't that good? Push that to the side. And then crimp it tightly all the way around. Now this cooks at 350 degrees Fahrenheit and cooks for exactly 50 minutes. And when you've done that, you just put 2 little holes in the top and stick it in the oven, and put in a convection oven so that it goes straight on the top like that. Now, here it is. And when you open the oven, the smell of it is gorgeous. See what happens? You just simply take this, turn it upside down, and then pray. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Now look. I'm going to cut a slice through here, just down through like that, and another slice through like that. Oh. And just remove it, and look into there. Look into there. All right, give me just a moment. I need a bit of magic of television. And now this is what I call magic, you see. What actually took place in that twinkling of an eye, see my eyes are twinkling, was that we took the sauce that was set in there and just added half a cup of strained yogurt to the sauce, and then just poured it hot over the top of the pie there, and then a little dusting of dill and some pepper, and that's just exactly what it looks like. All right, now the classic with which we're going to compare this is a fish pie with the top and bottom crust. This has an all the way around the crust too, and it's got more or less the same kind of vegetable relationship to fish in it. So we can see the effect of what happens just with the crust. Okay, from $5.91 for the classic, you drop virtually down 100 calories. From the fat, however, from 38, that whistles all the way down to 17, and the saturated fat element in it is down to 3. So that gives me the possibility of a 31% calories from fat dish instead of a 58 one. So 25 for cholesterol, which is super, and sodium down to 77, even though the capers were in there, it's not overdone. And then up by 5 in terms of the amount of fibers in it, which really works well. Okay, now I tell you, nothing I have ever seen anywhere relates quite to this dish. You see how the salmon flakes into there, and that sauce, that sweet corn sauce? Oh, oh gosh, if only I wasn't British, I could not tell you what it was like. It's great. Thank you for being with me once again. God bless you. Do try it. Don't forget, Minimax, minimize the risk, maximize the flavor. God bless. See you next time.